So we managed to reach the end of the sixth Hellenic Association for Energy Transition Symposium 2021 event. And for closing remarks, I would like to ask from Mr. James Smith, the President of the International Association for Energy Economics and editor of the Energy Journal and Professor Emeritus of the Southern Methodist University, for a discussion and his closing remarks. We have Mr. James Smith.
Thank you, Spiros. I hope you can all hear me well, and I wish you good evening.
Yes, James. Welcome. Hopefully the time difference was not an obstacle.
Well, it's an 8-hour difference, and so for me, we're at mid-morning here in Texas. But I wish all of you a good evening as we come to the close of this very important and successful symposium. As president of the International Association for Energy Economics, I'm honored to have been invited to speak to you and to offer my congratulations for all that you've accomplished during the past 4 days. I only regret that circumstances forced me to do this remotely, and I hope that international travel will soon become safer and more secure as the pandemic finally winds down. Let me begin by again thanking Spiros and the entire team from the Hellenic Association for Energy Economics for their kind invitation. We at IAEE are most grateful and fortunate to have such an active and effective national affiliate working to help guide Greece and the broader European region to a better energy future. I hope some of you were able to attend IAEE's recent virtual international conference, which was conducted online in June. More than 900 participants came from a total of 62 countries. Dr. Ho-Sung Lee, chairman of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and previously IAEE president, gave a very compelling keynote address regarding the work of the IPCC, past, present, and future. I was struck by Dr. Lee's suggestion that moving forward, it might be a good idea to revise slightly the climate change call to arms. Rather than pleading for everyone to save the planet, he suggested that a more effective plea would simply be to save me. The idea is that we might be better motivated to fight climate change if its impact were personalized, rather than left as a general and rather impersonal proposition. The idea of personal fight against climate change brings to my mind an important distinction between efforts to mitigate climate change by reducing emissions versus efforts to adapt to that part of climate change that we cannot prevent. We know the attempt to reduce emissions and mitigate climate change depends on many technological initiatives, but that a technical path to that end does exist, as the recent IEA Net Zero report has documented. Yes, it will entail some cost, but cost is not the real impediment to success. People are very willing to purchase individual insurance to protect the welfare of their homes and their families. Investments to reduce emissions are just another example of insurance that people really do desire. The problem is about who shall pay for this insurance. And the difficulty here comes from the well-known free rider problem. I benefit, whether it is you or me who reduces emissions, and I prefer it to be you. A solution to this problem, if it exists, will not come easily. So studies that hope to demonstrate the feasibility of achieving net zero must grapple not only with the technological developments that will facilitate the energy transition, but also with the behavioral obstacles that threaten its success. In contrast, the free rider problem is not such an obstacle that impedes adaptation to the effects of climate change. Adaptation involves actions that are mostly local, efforts that involve local expense and that produce local benefits. As with other types of insurance, people are willing to invest in measures that will primarily protect their homes and their families against the effects of climate change. Likewise, communities, states, and even nations are willing to invest in programs that will protect the welfare of their citizens. One prominent example is provided by the Panama Canal, which has recently initiated a $2 billion program to offset the reduction in rainfall and fresh water that's required to float ships across Lake Gatun and through the canal. Thousands of similar examples of such adaptation could be cited. My point is that there is a behavioral bias that favors adaptation over mitigation when it comes to fighting climate change. I'm not saying this is good or bad. I'm only saying that policymakers must take into account not only the technological requirements that could move us toward net zero, as in the IEA report, but also the behavioral incentives that determine which actions individuals, communities, and nations are likely to undertake. Projections and forecasts that fail to account for the behavioral bias towards adaptation are bound to be wrong. In closing, I want to again congratulate the Hellenic Association for Energy Economics on a very successful year, and also to say how much I'm looking forward to the next IAEE European Conference, to be held in Athens and hosted by the Hellenic Association next September. And I particularly applaud your association for the vital work it's doing to bring fresh ideas and reason to the many energy and environmental challenges we face. For those of you who are not yet members of the IAEE, but who may wish to become involved, I encourage you to visit our website, where you will find much more information about our conferences, past and future, including the Tokyo International Conference next year, plus information on our scholarly journals, the Energy Journal and the Economics of Energy and Environmental Policy, plus a very comprehensive collection of recent webinars that explore many vital aspects of the global energy scene. Thank you.
Thank you very much, James. So just to wrap up for the 4 days of the conference, we really discussed a huge amount of issues related to the energy environment and also social and corporate responsibility linked to sustainability. And of course, we discussed issues up for Greece, European Union, East Med region, issues about energy markets, special sessions about islands, which is something which is quite important, especially for Greece, but also for the Mediterranean region, e-mobility, funding renewables and PPA schemes that are quite important and something quite new and something which is eminently necessary. And also how in corporate we link ESG, the concept of sustainability in companies. But I was very pleased to hear your comment practically providing a necessary link about personal incentives, which in my point of view are crucial and is something that we should definitely mention. I have a fear, and a fear that has been enhanced all these years, and it's quite more intense now. The fear is that as necessary actions to mitigate climate change become imperative, and it's a solution that politicians propose all the time, and putting climate change as #1 priority, thus forcing everybody else to go towards renewable. There's a missing issue there, and the missing issue is that we need technical investments that will take a lot of time and a lot of money. And I'm afraid that this missing time will at some point force people saying renewables are not enough, or should go back to something else, and blame renewables for not being able, to cope up with necessary mitigation actions for climate change. This is a tricky point, and all of us that really want to force the new energy transition should look upon and say people that just exactly as the president of IAEA just mentioned, Mr. James Smith, is that we should also act in person. This is something that we should pass upon to our students, we are academics, almost all of us, and people should understand that now politicians can listen, but all of us should also act. It's something which is very important, and I was very happy that you, James, also mentioned that. So, another issue, and I will close with that, is that fortunately or unfortunately, we're not held the 7th Energy Transition Symposium next year, but we will move to organizing. The Hellenic Association for Energy Economics will organize next September, 21 to 24 September, here in Athens, the European Conference of IAEE. And the name and the title of the conference, the tentative title, will be The Future of Global Energy Systems. So all of you are invited. Hopefully, it will be imperative that all of us will be in person here, and we'll be very happy to welcome you, James, and all the other very friendly colleagues from IAEE here in Athens, and have a wonderful international European conference. Thank you very much for your participation, and thank everybody for the participation these 4 days in our conference.
Thank you, Spiros, and I look forward to joining you next year in Athens once again.
Thank you, thank you. So, that's all. Thank you, everybody. Και του χρόνου.